Howdy everybody. I had to get on the bike today. It's 80 degrees, and for those of you who have been noticing for the last month and a half, 2 months, the weather has just absolutely been atrocious. It's been cold, it's been rainy, and so this was one of the first days where it's been close to 80 degrees, so I had to get out on the bike. I know I got stuff to do at home, but I couldn't pass up this opportunity. So today I wanted to share a cool event I went to recently. I was on Facebook. Now this was before Zuckerberg hung out with his friends on Capitol Hill. And there was a post from All-American Harley-Davidson, and it talked about a seminar that was coming up on stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the Milwaukee 8. So it kind of piqued my interest. So I clicked it and said it was only an hour and a half long, free seminar on a Saturday. And I had that Saturday off, so I said, screw it, I'm gonna go. Now I'm not super mechanic by any means. I'm not Mr. Goodwrench, but I have basic knowledge of like how a motor works and mechanics. But I wanted to go and get educated on this because, you know, you always want to learn new stuff. Now, this class, it totally exceeded my expectations. And today I'm going to talk about it and share with you some of the things I got out of it. I want to recognize this gentleman by the name of Lyndon. And Lyndon is the general manager now for All-American Harley-Davidson. And a little bit about this guy. I started talking to him after the class. He is like cool as hell. He's been around with Harley, I think, for like 25 plus years, and he's done a variety of different positions inside certain dealerships. I know he's done sales, I believe he's done finance, parts, service, apparel. He's pretty much done everything at a dealer you can, and now he runs the one down here. And he actually is the one that taught this class, or classes. I'll get over to that in just a second. But the class I went to, the first one was stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it was very cool. He's a real humble dude. So like when we got up there and he started the class, he's like, listen, I just want to tell you guys up front, I'm not a teacher. I'm not this motivational teacher. I'm just here to share information with you and help out fellow riders. And that's cool as hell. So, you know, I went in there with expectations just to learn several things, but you know, I didn't think it was going to be too detailed. Damn, I mean, he went into super uber detail with all this stuff. And some of the classes that he's taught, there was one on how to get more power out of your bike. He did one on the ins and outs of the Milwaukee 8 engine. Obviously did the stage 1 through 4. I went to 2 of them. I didn't get to go to the Milwaukee 8 one, but it all ties in together. So the one that I'm going to talk about mostly today is the stage 1. But the second one I went to was about how to get more power from your bike. And it was a really informative class. And again, this one was about an hour and a half as well. And he talked about 3 or 4 key things that how to get more power. You know, the first thing was displacement and compression. So obviously if you get a bigger engine, you go from a 107 to a 114, you're gonna get more power. And he talked about compression. Then he went into the second part, which was your air, exhaust, and then he went into throttle bodies, and the third part he talked about was cams. And then he spent some times on tuning and all the different tuners that Harley uses and different ways you can tune your bike. But you know, I thought it was cool how like the displacement and compression, little things like, you know, with inside a cylinder on compression, how much this makes a difference on getting power to your bike. Obviously, the bigger the engine, you're gonna have more power, but with compression, like an example he used, so like in a cylinder in itself. So if you have like 50 cubic inches of air, and then it's for a 4-stroke engine. So basically if you have a 4-stroke engine, there's 4 strokes. You got your intake, and then you got your compression, which is what I'm talking about right now. And then the piston raises up and it compresses the air and fuel mixture. Then you get your explosion or you get your spark, and that gets your power. So only on 1 of 4 strokes is there power, and that's the third one. And then the fourth one, as the piston comes down, you have your exhaust node. So saying that, with compression, one of the things he talked about, and I'm going to relay it back into the stage 3 and stage 4 when I get into the stage stuff in just a second. Right now, you know, when you have a compression, it's measured in like a 10-to-1. So like if you have a volume of 50 cubic inches, and then it compresses down to like 5 cubic inches, that's where you get your 10-to-1 ratio. So with the Milwaukee 8 piston, especially with the stage 3 and stage 4 with the upgraded pistons, they have a little indentation that's raised, so it kind of compresses it even more, so it's more volatile. So when you have that air and fuel mixture, it produces more power on that third of the four-stroke engine. Then he went into specifics about air and exhaust, and the exhaust that you're going to have three types of exhaust. You can do it for sound, you can do it for performance, or you can do it for looks. But it's hard to get all three, so you're not going to be able to get, if you have something that's uber loud and that's your choice, which is totally cool, you might be lacking some performance because of that. Or if you like the way something looks, not necessarily sounds, that could impact performance too. It's all personal preference, but it's all they're all in conjunction with each other, with the air, compression, displacement, type of exhaust. All those things impact power. And then, like I said before, he talked about cams and he went totally into tuning. He didn't spend a lot of time on the stage one in that specific seminar, but the first one he did, and that's what I want to share with you guys today. And I got a lot out of it. You know, like I said, even though I know a basic knowledge of this stuff, the way Harley did with the twin cams, it was really confusing at stage 1 up to stage 5 or stage 4. Each thing had different aspects of it. With the Milwaukee 8 line, though, they try to streamline it and make it a lot easier. So with the stage 1, and I'll go through each one and kind of the ins and outs of it, because the whole point of this to get a stage kit is to get more power. You know, even though like right now, this is stock. I have the 107. I don't have any stage kits whatsoever, and I'm very happy with it. The torque on this thing's amazing, so I can imagine what it would be like with the higher stages. But this has plenty of pulling power. Oh, before I get into the stages, you know, there's always this common misconception or misnomer of people understanding torque versus horsepower. And he kind of explained it too, you know, because I fell asleep during physics class in school, so I'll give it a whirl here. Now remember, guys, don't bust my balls too hard, so, because like I said, I'm not a mechanic, so be easy on me if I miss a couple things. But torque is a pulling force. So torque is like right now I'm hitting my throttle and that's torque's pulling me. Horsepower is basically a mathematical calculation. And how it's figured out is you take your foot-pounds of torque. So let's just say if, you know, at my peak on this engine, I believe it's around 80. Now you start off with about 100 foot-pounds of torque, but as you get a little bit higher in your speed, in your RPM range, it actually drops a little bit. So at my peak, I'm at, let's just say, 80 foot-pounds of torque. You times that times your RPM, which you're at right now, or let's just say if I'm at 80 and then I times it times whatever, 4,000 RPMs, and then you take that and you divide it by 52. There's your horsepower. With the stage kits, and stage 1 is specifically air, exhaust, and tuning. And that's going to give you about a 10% improvement in overall power and most through your RPM rev range. Stage 2 is the exact same thing as stage 1, but you're getting an upgraded cam. Now stage 3 and stage 4 is where it really shoots up the power, and that's where you change your displacement compression like I was talking about earlier. The displacement goes from 107 to 114. Now in the stage 3 specifically, you get big bore heads, and then you get the pistons. So you get the upgraded pistons that I mentioned earlier, how they're indented. So with that, turns your compression from 10 to 1 to 11 to 1. And stage 4, the ultimate, is the you get performance heads, you get a new throttle body, and then obviously you get everything with the stage 1, 2, and 3 as well. And now not everybody is going to need a stage kit. As I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I'll get one. I mean, of course, everybody wants more power, but I'm very happy with this one right now. Now, with those upper stage kits, you know, like anybody could go in and say, I want more power, and I want more horsepower or whatever. Well, they could do that, but you might have to alter your riding style. And what I mean by that is like on a stage 3, specifically in a stage 4, your torque curve, what I was talking about earlier, you're going to get more torque, which will turn into that equation of the divided by 52, and you'll get more horsepower, but you'll get it on the higher end. So whereas stage 1, as I said, that's full through the whole entire, like 10%. Stage 2, you'll probably get about a 15% with that cam. Stage 3 is about a 35% in power, but where you're really going to see the difference is once you get to that 4,000 range. Whereas this one, like right now, normally I shift around 3,500. You know, I'm in 2,000 right now, but once I get up, I shift about 3,500. With those stage 3 and stage 4 even more, you're gonna want to shift it probably more like that 4,000 RPM instead of that 3,000 to 3,500. Because if you shift it like 3,500, you're not getting that power that you're getting with those stage kits. I mean, you get some, but you're not getting the full potential. So you kind of have to learn to ride differently. And, you know, I was playing around with it the other day when I was riding, and when I get to 4,000 on the stock, I feel uncomfortable. It's like, that's too high for me. And again, it's because of this bike. It's not geared for that higher RPM range. But with the stage 3, you could do that around the 4,000. The stage 4 is around 5,000. So once you get into that RPM around the 5,000 mark, that is when it's hitting its most power. So like if you take a torque curve from the stage 4 compared to this one. So a stage 4, you're gonna get eventually probably around 121 to 125 horsepower. And at the peak on this one, you're gonna get about 80. Now, obviously I know those could change a little bit, you know, depending on how you get it tuned, but it's rough guess, it's probably around 120 to 125 range. But this, I think it's 79, 80 is packed, which is plenty for me, but you can see the difference between a stage 3 and a stage 4, or excuse me, between a stock and a stage 4. So like with that stage 4, like that torque curve, it actually has less torque starting out compared to this, but it gains tremendously. And obviously the more RPMs you have, and if like you're at 110 pounds of torque at like 5,000, that's gonna hit you probably around 115, and then you keep going, and then as your RPMs get faster, your horsepower is gonna continue to go up. So that's where it peaks out at probably around 125 range, 120 to 125, which is a huge amount of change in torque and horsepower from stock. Hopefully this video was helpful. I tell you what, going to those classes, you know, I learned a lot. I learned an immense amount of knowledge, knowing that even though I have a basic understanding of how an engine works, getting into the nitty-gritty of everything, and especially the stage 1 and the power one, both were very beneficial for me. So the question I have for you guys, does your dealer do something like that, or is that more just Lyndon, the GM there? Because it's, I mean, I think that's cool as hell what he's doing, and he's planning on doing a lot more. So I'd really like to thank Lyndon and All-American Harley. Oh, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Jessica. And Jessica is the one that furnished this video with all these slides that you've seen throughout. She's the marketing manager there. When I first went in, or I went to this class, I met with Lyndon afterwards. I said, hey, would you guys mind if I do a video on this? I just think this is so cool. I want to share it with a bunch of people and kind of what I got out of it. And do you mind if I have a couple of these slides to show? Because you think I did this PowerPoint? Hell no. And he said, sure. So cool as hell. So I really want to thank those guys there. Hey, if you haven't already subscribed, I sure would appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button and the bell notification too. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful day. I'm going to get going here and ride probably for another 60, 70 miles because I'm going to take advantage of this. The stuff at home can wait. Be well, and I'll talk to you soon.